Justin Baldoni's team has issued a response in opposition to dismiss the New York Times.
How the New York Times actively vouched for the veracity of its false narrative.
We actually want all evidence to come out that's proper and appropriate evidence.
Meryl Conant, Blake Lively's lawyer, quietly stepped away from the case. The moment she did, the entire narrative shifted. What seemed like a solid legal battle started to crumble, piece by piece. The evidence wasn't adding up. The claims weren't holding.
That's the whole point of a lawsuit, is you just start with allegations, and allegations are not evidence. They're just statements of fact that help establish this is the claim that I'm bringing.
And the deeper everyone dug, the more it became clear. This wasn't just a legal fight. It was a war of reputations, PR strategies, and media manipulation. But here's the kicker. The truth was buried under layers of spin, and it was about to explode.
Among other allegations, Lively claimed that Baldoni had engaged in improvised and unwanted kissing and made sexual comments to her.
Blake Lively's accusations against Justin Baldoni and Wayfair Studios were bold. Sexual harassment, body shaming, misconduct. These were heavy allegations. And for a moment, it seemed like she had the upper hand. The New York Times even backed her up with a damning article. But then, Justin Baldoni's legal team dropped a bombshell.
Justin Baldoni sues the New York Times for $250 million over the outlet's
A 170-page document filled with texts, emails, and evidence that not only debunked Blake's claims, but painted her as the aggressor. The narrative flipped overnight.
Campaign to tarnish Blake Lively after she accused Justin Baldoni of misconduct on the set of It Ends With Us. And in this lawsuit, she claims that he fat-shamed her, which we had heard about, 6 months ago, that he busted into her trailer repeatedly while she was breastfeeding when she did not want that. She alleges that he was constantly sexual and made her and other women listen to him talking about his former porn addiction. She says that he tried to force sex scenes into the project that she was not comfortable with, allegedly made women on set watch videos of his.
The New York Times article, titled "We Can Bury Anyone Inside a Hollywood Smear Machine," was supposed to be Blake's golden ticket. It gave her claims the weight of mainstream media credibility. But here's the problem. The Times didn't just report the allegations. They presented them as verified facts. And that's where things got messy.
This is the evidence we're using. These are the text messages we're relying on. They say that they've reviewed thousands of pages of text messages. Unbelievable.
Justin Baldoni's lawyer, Brian Fredman, didn't hold back. He accused the Times of violating journalistic ethics, rushing the story, and failing to give the other side a fair chance to respond. The article wasn't just biased, it was reckless. Fredman didn't stop there. He filed a $400 million lawsuit against Blake Lively and another against the New York Times.
Baldoni's team drops a massive $400 million suit on Blake and a lawsuit against the New York Times. Then they publish 170 pages of perfectly documented texts and emails between all the parties that basically show Blake to be the aggressor. Here's the proof.
His argument? The Times didn't just report on Blake's claims. They amplified them, framed them as truth, and in doing so, destroyed Baldoni's reputation. And the evidence? It was all in those 170 pages. Texts, emails, and communications that showed Blake wasn't just making claims. She was orchestrating a campaign.
They hired, meaning the Wayfair parties, hired a crisis PR manager who orchestrated a smear campaign against Lively.
But let's rewind for a second. Blake's PR team had a hand in this too. While they made it look like they were fighting for justice, the reality was far more calculated.
I see a bully being a bully attacking somebody. The bully being Blake Lively and her powerful lawyers. And thank goodness Justin's got support to be able to fight back this time.
They hired a crisis PR manager, pushed narratives on social media, and even leveraged Blake's friendship with Taylor Swift to sway public opinion. It wasn't about the truth. It was about maintaining an image. And for a while it worked, until it didn't. The 170-page document wasn't just a legal move. It was a PR nightmare for Blake.
You don't want to believe that execs at the very tippity top are being essentially threatened or bullied or coerced or extorted and by a couple like Ryan and Blake or like Taylor Swift, right?
It showed that every time her legal team thought they had a leg to stand on, the ground beneath them turned to quicksand. No messages, no documents, no proof, just claims. And the more Conant fought, the more she realized she was defending nothing. The case was falling apart, and Blake's team was scrambling to keep it together.
I'm blaming the New York Times for participating with Blake Lively's publicists and engaging in this campaign where they actually were part of facilitating the complaint getting filed with the CRD, which is the Civil Rights Division.
Meanwhile, Justin Baldoni's team was relentless. They didn't just defend him, they went on the offensive. Fredman argued that the New York Times wasn't just guilty of sloppy journalism, they were guilty of actual malice. Under U.S. defamation law, actual malice means the defendant knew the information was false or acted with reckless disregard for the truth. And Fredman had the receipts.
And that's what the New York Times is coming back and saying, look, we're not Blake Lively. We're not the ones making the allegation. We're just fairly reporting on what Blake is suing Justin and Wayfair for.
The Times had access to thousands of pages of documents, yet they chose to run with Blake's version of events without proper verification. That, Fredman argued, was a clear violation of journalistic ethics. But here's the twist. The Times didn't just rush the story, they timed it for maximum impact. The article dropped during the holidays, giving Baldoni and Wayfair almost no time to respond. Fredman called it out for what it was, a deliberate attempt to shape the narrative without giving the other side a fair shot. And the timing? It wasn't just convenient, it was strategic.
If they would have said, Blake alleges that, or according to Blake, blah, 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 this happened, they'd be protected. But they said, and her title is investigative journalist. So she's investigative journalist for the New York Times. So that is implying that she's done an investigation. She's actually looked in this. We can trust her.
As the case unfolded, more details came to light. Blake's legal team had no evidence to back up her claims. The 170-page document showed that she was the one initiating aggressive communications, not Baldoni. The claims of sexual harassment? Non-existent. Body shaming? Not even close. And the more the public saw, the more it became clear.
And so now they're saying like, hey, we tried to fact check. We gave you the opportunity. Oh, you didn't respond. Oh, if you would have responded, we would have maybe thought of things differently. But hey, we just went with what we had, so we can't be sued. So this is what they're doing.
Blake wasn't the victim here. She was the one playing the victim. But the real question is, why didn't anyone see this coming? For a moment, it seemed like Blake had the upper hand. The New York Times article gave her claims legitimacy. But the truth was always there, buried under layers of PR spin and media manipulation. And when it finally came out, it hit harder than anyone expected.
And even if it doesn't succeed, meaning it doesn't get to a jury or a jury says, hey, I'm going to give you $1 or something like that, I like that he's exposing this because, you know, we hope that journalists would actually investigate completely. We hope that journalists would give each side a fair chance rather than smearing and destroying one side.
Fredman's legal strategy was brilliant. He didn't just defend Baldoni, he attacked the credibility of the entire media campaign. He argued that the New York Times wasn't just reporting on Blake's allegations, they were validating them as facts. And in doing so, they exposed themselves to a lawsuit. The Times lost the shield of fair report privilege, and Fredman was ready to make them pay. But this isn't just about lawsuits and legal battles. It's about the power of media, the influence of celebrities, and the ethics of journalism.
It is therefore gratifying to note that Brian Friedman, power attorney, has opposed the New York Times' attempts to have itself struck out from the Wayfair lawsuit by simply making the point that that publication was not neutrally reporting on fact, but was actually propagandizing on behalf of the Reynolds.
The New York Times is one of the most respected media outlets in the world. But in this case, they crossed a line. They didn't just report the news, they shaped it. And in doing so, they became part of the story. As the case moves forward, one thing is clear. This isn't just a legal battle. It's a collision of press freedom, celebrity influence, and journalistic integrity. And the consequences? They'll be felt far beyond Hollywood.